Alrighty, guys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I apologize that I've been gone for a little bit. I was doing really important stuff. No! That was very important. I messed that one up. So that's why I was gone. Today we are going to be talking about Tess Holliday. I've not talked about her in quite some time. She was actually interviewed on a show called the Tamron Hall Show, I believe is what it's called. But before that, probably about a year ago, close to a year ago, she came out and stated that she was diagnosed with anorexia. And there was a lot of people that had a lot to say about that. I made videos about that. But this video is titled Tess Holliday Tearfully Opens Up About Anorexia Diagnosis and Recovery. Hello, this is Ad Read John, and I just wanted to say thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. If you're unfamiliar with NordVPN or VPNs in general, what VPN stands for is Virtual Private Network. So what NordVPN does is they actually hide your IP address, which is kind of like a way for people to find out where you are and by where your computer is located. So it hides that so you can just browse online more safely. A couple use cases for me that I really actually enjoy the service is if I'm out and like using a coffee shop's Wi-Fi and I'm kind of like, I don't really know this place, I don't really trust this place, you can just set up NordVPN on your laptop and you can feel a lot more safe there. As well as one of the really, really cool ways to use a VPN is you can basically, especially on Nord, you can kind of click where you want your IP address to be, and then you can access things on the internet that maybe wouldn't be available to you. So a really good example is streaming websites. A lot of streaming websites are actually specific to where your IP address is located. So if you're trying to stream a show that's not available in America and you click over to France and they have it, you're able to watch that show. So that's another really cool use case for a VPN. I know a lot of this sounds super technical. It's actually really, really easy to set up. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You can have it on up to 6 different devices, and it really takes like no time to set it up and get started. If any of that sounds interesting to you, there will be a link down below which you can click, which obviously helps me, but it also gets you up to 72% off the service. So if you want to check it out, click that link, helps me out. Again, thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring the video. Let's get back into it. What this interview is basically her getting interviewed about what it's been like for her since she's opened up about this diagnosis. So we're going to go over the video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. We're going to go over the video and I'm going to share my thoughts as well.
Since sharing your diagnosis with your fans, with the public, you have experienced a setback. What happened after you shared the news?
Well, I wasn't quite expecting it to blow up in the way that it did. I wasn't expecting everyone to talk about it around the world for weeks and months even. It basically caused me to stop taking care of myself in the way that I had been, to stop. I stopped feeding myself properly. I kind of got really depressed. I just really regressed into behaviors that weren't healthy for me.
The first part of the interview, she talks about how apparently when she announced that she was struggling with anorexia about a year ago, she was probably already working on it, because she says once she announced it, then all of a sudden, like, she was getting this criticism, and then it made her want to, basically she regressed back into not eating anything, not fueling her body.
It's even hard to talk about now. I wish that I just would have waited a little bit longer, because I wasn't fully prepared. And I also didn't realize when I talked about it that we don't really discuss folks that are experiencing my type of eating disorder in larger bodies.
Now, where I agree with her was that she talks about how, you know, if you're in a larger body, if you talk about having some sort of eating disorder, that people don't take you seriously. And I can absolutely sympathize with that. I can totally understand. Now, where I lose her is that she claims that she was starving.
Because you look at fat bodies, and you just all of a sudden say, well, you're healthy and all you do is sit around and eat. But for the world to say that all I'm doing is sitting around and eat when I'm starving was horrible, because anybody any size can starve, and we are just conditioned.
I am sorry. I try my best to be as kind and understanding as I can in my videos, and I hope it comes across as that. But when you think of starving, I'm sorry, I don't think of someone that is Tess Holliday's size. Those two things just do not mix. Now, when I hear what she kind of was going through, I can understand what it's like to be busy and not be eating that much and just be struggling with your food. But it definitely sounds a lot more like she was basically just intermittent fasting, not starving or being anorexic. Now, obviously, I can't diagnose her or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I can absolutely understand why people would be skeptical, and as well as people that are struggling with anorexia and are struggling with keeping their weight up, things like that. I can understand with them being upset that this person who maybe doesn't even actually have this disorder is claiming they do to get sympathy on the internet.
I started really examining how I was feeding my body, or the lack thereof, and I met who I now work with, my dietitian, Anna Sweeney. About 5 months into our sessions, she said, I can't diagnose you properly, but if I could, I would diagnose you as anorexia nervosa. And I remember her saying it, and I just laughed. I went, no.
Like, why did you react that way?
Because look at me. I was like, I'm fat. Like, when you think of the term anorexia, you associate it with emaciated bodies.
She claims here that she's been working with a dietitian online, and they, with her own words, she said, they can't diagnose me, but if they could, they would diagnose me with this. Now, I don't know if there has been more stuff that has happened behind the scenes, but the way that this was presented makes it seem like there actually was no diagnosis. Obviously, I can't say for sure, but that is a really weird way to frame that whole thing, because if you actually haven't been diagnosed, that is like truly kind of messed up to be using this as a way to be getting on television shows, in my opinion, of course. Also, after that, she talks about how if there wasn't as much weight bias stigma, then maybe she would have handled this sooner.
It's because I thought if I would have known that this was a possibility, I could have gotten help sooner if there wasn't so much weight bias stigma in the medical industry. Someone could have helped me.
Now, again, as far as weight bias stigma in the medical field, I do definitely think that that is quite a big issue. One of the biggest issues that I absolutely actually agree with, like the, fat activists or whatever you want to call it, health at every size activists, that's something that I do agree with for the most part. But the way that she uses it, especially in this clip, and it seems like in a lot of her social media, is it's a way to garner sympathy, and as well, it's a way to kind of pass the buck, move the buck along, and not take responsibility. It seems like one of the issues a lot of people seem to have with Tess is she's very good at kind of being a different person in every different avenue, in every different venue. So if you watch this video, she's a very sweet, she seems very nice and soft-spoken and very like, why would anybody be mad at her? How could anybody be rude to her? But if you follow her on TikTok or you look at a lot of her other social media posts, it's a completely different story.
That really sounds like a you problem, or not a me problem.
So that's why I think a lot of people have really weird feeling towards her, because it really seems like she kind of just like, she kind of just like forces her way or slithers her way or kind of like changes how she really is in whatever, area she's at.
In my head, I would say, oh, I'll just eat later. I'll eat later. I'll do this later. And it wasn't until I actually got the diagnosis that I started realizing, wait, I don't feed my body properly, and I feed everyone around me, and I leave nothing for myself.
Here, again, I am sorry, and I'm not trying to sound mean, but if you're continuously not eating, right? Continuously not putting food in your body, do you really think that you are going to be the size that Tess Holliday is? The answer is probably not, right? So again, I don't think that she was never eating. Clearly, food was going into the mouth and going into the stomach. Clearly that was happening. I think one misconception a lot of people have is they think they have to eat all the time to get large. Like, it's definitely not that hard to get really big. Especially if you are big and you have been big for a really long time, you have a really big appetite. So yeah, you might be able to go, maybe a full day without eating, 18 hours without eating, whatever it might be. But if you sit down and you eat a gigantic meal in one sitting, it doesn't matter that you didn't eat for the rest of the day, because the calories that you ate in that one meal matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter that you didn't have 3 meals and you only had one. If that one meal has a lot of calories in it, you're not going to lose weight. It's just not going to happen. And so that's what I think was going on. It was like, yeah, she was busy during the day, and then at night, bam, she would have a huge meal. That's what happens to a lot of people. It sucks, and it's not, it's not something that I wish on anybody, but that's definitely what it seems like was going on. The video is longer, and so if you want to watch it, feel free, but I want to read some of the comments on this, because actually they were pretty like informative, and I feel like they were actually pretty thoughtful. So this one right here says, whilst going through this diagnosis, she posted videos of herself eating multiple huge cakes in one sitting, large pizzas, giant servings of fast food, drinking calorie-dense blended desserts, etc., and looking overjoyed. It's absolutely true that people can be anorexic without looking typically skinny. I am recovering from anorexia and used to be complimented on my dream body and was technically at the perfect healthy BMI for my height, which only fueled my ED. Meanwhile, I couldn't stay awake for more than 7 hours, was constantly cold, and couldn't focus on anything. I can't imagine it definitely would be possible to be anorexic and overweight/obese, as restricting your eating doesn't automatically make you skinny, especially if you start with lots of excess weight or PCOS/stunted growth. But this is absolutely ridiculous. An anorexic would never behave the way Tess does on social media and gain weight doing it. If she really does think she's anorexic, I feel bad for her. Now because somebody unqualified diagnosed her, she has all the more reason to overeat. In this next comment, according to her statement, she was not diagnosed. An online nutritionist could not diagnose her, but suggested that she might have anorexia based on what Tess told her she was eating. A medical professional specifically has not diagnosed her with anorexia because she does not meet any of the criteria. Not eating for a day or two is not starving and is a complete insult to the millions of people around the world who are actually starving. Gaining 150 pounds over the past few years, Google pictures of her from 2015-2017, is not the clinical definition of anorexia. Posting video after video of eating large amounts of food is not the clinical definition of anorexia, although it could certainly meet the clinical definition of binge eating. Posting video after video about how she is proud to be fat does not meet the clinical definition of anorexia. The fact that any rational person would believe any of this is utterly astounding. What a lot of those comments were kind of talking about was, how she is on other social media. So if you follow her like on TikTok, or you just see what she posts on TikTok, she does a lot of like, oh, I'm trying this for the first time, and eating a chalupa, or eating a Big Mac for the first time, or whatever it might be, right?
Wow, that's delicious.
Absolutely it is. Get it? The girls that don't.
And so clearly someone that is struggling with genuine anorexia probably wouldn't be posting that. That's what those comments are saying. And the other thing that I think is really, really important, and at least to me, that I can understand why people would have maybe a bad taste in their mouth when we talk about Tess Holliday, is just the stark contrast of what they see on TikTok and social media that she's in control of versus this person that she seems to be playing on these talk shows that she goes on. I can understand why you would feel a little about the person. Now, at the end of the day, like I always say, you know, I'm not here to diagnose or say anything, but I think most people can probably look at Tess Holliday and probably deduce that anorexia is probably not going on. And that's not to say there's no issues, there's no EDs, there's no, you know, food-related problems. I think personally that so many people just want to have a title, have a name, have a thing that it is, right? When it could be just you have a really bad relationship with food, and that's what it seems like Tess has. And that still sucks. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but I am saying that anorexia has very specific things that you need to meet, and it just seems like Tess doesn't meet those. And on top of it, it seems like Tess heard that this nutritionist might think that she has anorexia, and she said, perfect, I can use that to make myself a victim. And that's my personal opinion. I would love to know what y'all think down in the comment section down below. I appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up obviously always helps. Comments always helps. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Peace.